Hello, welcome again, Red Georgians. We're going to be doing some difficult and tough work today. We're going to be sorting out one of your hardest problems. We are going to be talking about how, if you have a cloud-first strategy, you can accommodate that for your mission-critical applications. We know at the Register that this is something that many of you have struggled with. Perhaps you've been struggling with it for quite a while. It's been stuck in your inbox. Let's get it out of your inbox. Who is going to be helping me to get it out of your inbox? Louise, welcome.
Thank you, Tim. I'm Louise Hutton. I'm from Service Express. Service Express is a company that is not only a maintenance company, but also a specialty cloud company. And basically, we're going to be talking about, cloud-first strategies. And what does that mean?
We're also going to be talking about what specialty cloud means as well. But let's not get into any of those things right away yet, because also I have to introduce Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hi, Tim, and thanks for having me. I'm Steve Sibley. I'm the Vice President of Product Management for IBM Power within the IBM company. And we've certainly been focused on how do we build the right infrastructures and partner with the right companies to enable clients to, implement their cloud-first strategy for those mission-critical applications running on Power.
And Steve, this is something that you've been working with Louise to implement for Service Express, isn't it?
Absolutely correctly. A great partner of ours and one that has, tremendous experience in helping clients with their infrastructures and applications. And so excited to continue to work with Louise and Service Express on how we can help clients evolve.
So it's all chat today. We're not going to be bombarding you with slides. What are we going to be talking about today? Well, we're going to be talking about the problems of implementing a cloud-first strategy and why you might not have got as far with it as you wanted to. What are your options in the cloud and how do you make those come true? First of all, though, Louise, we have to talk about what a cloud-first strategy actually is. What does it mean in real life and why are so many people struggling with it?
Well, I've been around this industry for a long time. And I think the first time I heard cloud was about, around the 2009. And it was, when you first heard it and it was described in about 2009, I thought that's a really good thing to have. I thought, yep, that's really good. And that's what I'm working towards within the company I was working for at the time. But as we progressed through the the early 2000s into the early 2010s, we started to hear companies really talk about cloud. And then we really started to hear the CIOs and CEOs of the companies start saying, well, actually, we're going to put a cloud-first strategy. And what they mean by that is that if we're going to put any investment into the technology within our companies, it's got to be invested in a cloud platform. And when they mean cloud platform, they really mean an external cloud platform, not an internal cloud platform. And this is where things started to get quite complex. So in 2000 and, in about 2012 to 2015, we started to see that happening throughout most of the industry. And what's interesting for me, we're sitting here in 2023, and still a lot of the companies haven't achieved that cloud-first strategy. There's still applications that aren't sitting in the cloud, that they've been struggling to get to the cloud for one reason or another. And when we look at the hyperscalers, most of those hyperscalers are based on internet technologies. And what we at Service Express notice is that, a lot of the applications that are in the companies, our client companies that haven't made it to cloud, aren't actually constructed in a manner that fit the cloud services and the cloud technologies. And so what happens is they get left behind because of it's a real difficult fit to get it in there without completely re-architecting. And it wasn't until I've been around IBM for a long time. Most of my career has been around IBM, which is why we have, this great relationship with IBM. And I was a contracting for IBM for a very large SAP company in around the 2017. It was the biggest SAP user on the planet at the time. And what was interesting to them, SAP HANA had just come out. And SAP had just announced that the next upgrade is going to be to SAP HANA. They're not going to support the other SAPs that were out at the time. And that company that I was working for couldn't figure out how they could afford to re-engineer SAP to go to SAP HANA. And that's when I started to realize actually re-architecting your main business apps to go to a different platform is not just expensive, it's very risky and very difficult to do for the company. And I think that's what we're seeing at Service Express. The companies that haven't managed to completely move everything to cloud services is because those applications are business critical and also not architected to fit on the type of technologies that most cloud hyperscalers are suited for.
Steve, this must be something that you've come across time and time again at IBM. You have a lot of clients, a lot of customers whose IT infrastructure predates cloud, but also you've been very enthusiastic about cloud almost from day one. Are you finding a lot of CIOs under pressure here and not knowing how to move forward?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, most of my conversations with clients, and I'm privileged enough to talk to a lot of them, are oriented around how do they, leverage cloud more effectively. As Luis talked about, cloud has made a huge difference in companies' ability to develop new applications and services and deliver them very quickly. And that agility, that flexibility that it provides is what clients really want. But as Luis talked about, moving those core business processes and applications into that environment either requires a major rewrite, and in often cases means clients are standing still, or they evolve that solution and take that same architecture and move it into a cloud that's adaptable and flexible for their needs, right? And what we found in our surveys from IBM is that clients that leverage that, either migration into a hybrid cloud world or leveraging their own environments get tremendous return on investment on taking that approach. So, understanding the options from cloud is really important for customers.
Louise, what comes into this category of mission critical applications? You already mentioned SAP there. What sort of industries, what sort of businesses, what sort of applications are they running where the risk is just too great or is perceived as being too great?
A lot of it is the core business application. So in other words, SAP, certain versions of SAP, certain sizes of SAP makes it very difficult to fit into the cloud. So, and also things that, or applications that running on operating systems like IBM I, AIX, large implementations of Oracle where you need a large amount of memory and large access to memory. And also applications that have just been in the company or have their origins from when the company first started putting those applications. The application still might be valid, it still might be within support and all of that, but what's happened is it's grown from when it was originally in the application. So it's a lot of what we could call long-term applications within the company, as Steve said, business critical. And from my perspective, although people have tried to get them in there, it's not because they haven't tried. It's just been very difficult, or almost, as Steve said, impossible to re-engineer to do it and to afford to do that. But also one of the other issues is one of the reasons that they want to, or the CIOs and the CTOs want to get it out of their business is because for the last 10 years, we've been concentrated on internet services and internet technologies and and that's where all of the money and investment's been going. So what's happened is that the skill level to run the operating systems of the applications that these applications are sitting on are sort of reduced as well. So when we talk about wanting to move to a cloud, and as Steve said, to want to move to a specialty cloud that can host those services, those applications in a cloud manner. But you also got to, from a cloud perspective, you've also got to take on the management of those operating systems away from those clients as well. So I think the managed services that are associated with managing those infrastructures is just as important for these applications that haven't made it yet from a business client perspective as much as just getting it into a cloud technology.
I want to hear from both of you on this one, so briefly, about why we should really want this. Give me a bit of detail on this, because What's the prize here to migrate these applications successfully into that cloud environment? On the one hand, yes, you're mandated to do it strategically. On the other hand, it's a lot of money and risk. What are they aiming for? Steve, you start.
Yeah, so clients have many different objectives as they do this, but the fundamental ones that cloud provides is one, more agility, right? They don't have to plan, within their own company anymore for the flexibility to add capacity and to scale up more quickly when they need it. The cloud provider has now taken on that responsibility, and by providing that additional infrastructure capability, it makes it much easier to be flexible in how you implement. And in today's environment where new services and capabilities are needed, or where you need to, plan, more diligently around what you might see from an expansion in workloads, that agility and flexibility is very important. The other key piece that Louise just touched on is the ability to leverage the expertise of both the cloud infrastructure provider as well as the managed service provider to handle things like security and compliance and high availability kind of capabilities for the client, so that they can focus on their business processes and how to get the best out of their data and analytics and their applications themselves. So I think those are the two primary things: the agility, and then leveraging the expertise of the infrastructure provider and the partner. I'd say that, as we have approached cloud from IBM, and, we've both built our own within Power Virtual Server, where we have, mapped our consistent high performance architecture for these mission critical workloads, and teamed with critical partners like Service Express that provide flexibility and agility and customization for clients. It gives clients those options that they need, where they can get both of those key advantages of agility and expertise, and that leverage it for those mission critical workloads.
Louise, what would you add to that?
So I think, just like Steve says, I think there's flexibility is the biggest one. Quite often what we see, some of our clients, the applications, especially if it's sitting on IBM I, they started off when it was originally went on IBM I, it was really, really quite big, and they needed quite a powerful box. But as the technology has progressed, the need for having such a big box isn't necessary, or big server isn't necessary anymore. And so therefore they're actually spending more than they need to on a licensing perspective, because they got a licensed box of the server itself. So one of it is just a cost perspective to get licensing down. The other one is, as Steve said, is agile. So in other words, if you put it in a cloud environment, you can draw the resources when you want it. So the cloud, you should be able to scale up and scale down. That's one of the real big flexibilities of putting it in the cloud. So depending on when you need those resources, especially if you need high availability, if you own it yourself, then that high availability you're paying for all the time. Whereas if you put it in the cloud, you can just make that available to you when you need it. And also, it is the fact that the skill sets that's needed to run these types of application is reducing within the world. And so therefore, the cloud providers that look after these specialty clouds that you can host these applications on, they're pulling all of those skill sets together. So you get, you get flexibility, you get agile, you get savings on your licensing costs, and also you get all of the skills that you need to put this together. So I think it's multi-layered, as well as the cloud provider is giving you certain SLAs, so they're working to guarantee that's going to meet whatever your business requirements are. So I think it's multifaceted why you would want to go to cloud.
Now, Louise, you are a provider of specialty cloud, which is the other jargon term that there was in our title here. So tell me, what is specialty cloud? How is it different from hyperscaler type cloud? So
for us, we differentiate ourselves from a hyperscaler. We're not based on sort of x86 or OpenShift or anything like those sorts of technologies that you see in most of the hyperscalers. Although the hyperscalers do have specialty clouds within them, quite a few hyperscalers have started to do that now because of this issue of getting these applications to the cloud. So what I see is that you're using technologies such as IBM Power to host the applications in the same manner as they've been hosted in their data centers, but the actual cloud is designed, but it's still multi-tenanted, so it's not, or potentially multi-tenanted, because you can have both multi-tenanted and single-tenanted within our cloud. But basically, it's all done in a cloud-like manner, but the actual technology itself is pretty much tailored to fit your needs of your application. So in other words, you don't have to do very much re-engineering in order to bring it into the cloud that in a specialty cloud, because it's targeted for the type of applications that you're running and can't get to cloud. But also the other thing that I think from our specialty cloud that you get is the ability to have the managed services over the top of it. So what I mean by that is that we look after everything up to and including the operating system, and the application from there on is up to the companies themselves. So it's a much deeper level of services than you get from just a normal cloud provider. A normal cloud provider doesn't actually necessarily do the operating systems themselves, and then you'd have to bring other companies in to do that as well.
Steve, is this looking globally? The narrative is dominated by this hyperscaler cloud model. How big an opportunity, how big a thing at the moment is specialty cloud?
Yeah, so as clients are really looking at evolving that cloud first strategy that we kind of talked about at first, they're beginning to understand different workloads require different infrastructure environments, right? Even in a cloud-like environment. So taking these, mission critical workloads to still be able to execute with the transaction rates and the performance that are required and the resiliency require things like specialty clouds, right? That are designed architecturally to address that all workloads don't fit the same. So there's a place for hyperscalers. And as Louise mentioned, more hyperscalers are looking at and have already implemented in some cases, dedicated or specialty areas within their environments already, right? And so the option to be able to place those workloads in an area that's optimized for cost, for performance, but also support and resiliency, right, are really key. And that's why you're seeing, emergence around specialty clouds, both from, non-hyperscalers or as well as environments within those hyperscalers to deliver that.
So Louise, yes, carry on, Louise, yes.
Yeah, so I think it's also important to remember that the hyperscalers have really got a place. So we're not saying that hyperscalers isn't the right fit or anything like that, and this is why, we're hearing the term hybrid cloud a lot these days, but normally that hybrid cloud means that it's connected with what we're now calling private cloud. And in my mind, private cloud was a word that we used for what's left in the data center quite often, because we have to have cloud in the name. What was left in the data center that we couldn't move to the hyperscalers, we started to call a private cloud, if you sort of mean. But really what I see as a hybrid cloud is that you have, specialty cloud providers like ourselves using also, as part of your cloud providers. So in other words, we interface with hyperscalers as well. So if you come into us, we will look after the hyperscalers for you as well. So that, provide all that connectivity and management layer over the hyperscalers. It's not, in today's day and age, what we look after is so complex for our businesses because of, IT has just taken over everything. We can't just have one solution to try and make everything fit that. And I think one of the great things about what IBM and IBM Power have done, they've really built the power technology to fit anything that's got high availability necessary for high availability, necessary for critical applications. But more importantly than anything else is that if you look at specifically the Power 10, it's really built for large in-memory database type workloads or anything that's got to do with inferencing from an AI perspective. The way that it's been architected means that they can address the memory really, really fast and large amounts. And I think when you start looking at the way the industry is going, and our thirst for memory is not getting any smaller in our applications. And I think, the need for these specialty clouds running technology such as Power from IBM is becoming more and more important as we move forward.
Now, I'd like the two of you to take me through what the process is, this migration process, and how it works. Louise, first of all, when you are speaking to a new client and they're looking to prepare for that migration, they want to know if they are suitable for it. What are you looking out for here? What sort of work might they have to do on site to prepare for the migration?
So we've got a whole migration factory. So this is something, we've been doing now for, I think we started in about 2007 in Service Express. I wasn't actually in Service Express at the time, but Service Express has been doing this for a long time. So they've got a whole migration factory and a migration process. And it really starts with identifying from the client what is their need and whether their need fits what we can do. So it's all about the initial engagement to start off with and making sure that that is fitting and that it fits into our specialty cloud. So that's where it starts. And we have a whole team of solution architects as well as pre-sales technical engineers that work with the client to make sure before we even got to the point of talking about whether you can sign up or not, whether it's going to be a right fit for you. And then once we get close and it's working, we've got the price is looking right and all of that. Then what happens is that once, we start signing up, then there's a whole second team of sort of project managers that come into play. And there's a whole second team that comes in that actually look at how we're going to migrate that across. And most of that is, because a lot of our clients are based on IBM technology. So in other words, we have a methodology of replicating that into our cloud and then moving them across. The most difficult part of quite often is the networking. That's the hardest bit for us. The rest of it is fairly straightforward. And also what we also find is that when you're taking those type of applications with you, it's not just about taking IBM type Power workloads. You've got to take all of the VMware type, and quite often they want you to take the VMware type workloads with it and also still to connect into the hyperscalers. So really what we do is we stand up a whole project to bring that across and then and work with the client on how that works. And often what happens is, so you do the first, once we've actually got it, you do the discovery phase, the engineering phase, then we do the proof of concept phase where we start doing the migrations and building things across, testing phase after that. And then there will be a go live phase where we actually make sure once we've done all the testing, how we go live and bring all of the data up to sync. So it's actually in parallel with what you're doing and running in your actual on-premise applications. So it's a massive process, but it doesn't necessarily take that long. It's actually, I was on the call yesterday where our head of implementation, he's got it down to 54 days on average for doing the average migration into our data center.
I would have thought it would be much more than 2 months. Steve, I imagine you get a lot of your clients come to you at the beginning, Steve, and say, we're a little bit different because of this. We have this special problem because of that. How much can you say to them, actually, we've done this sort of thing before. You're not that different to everybody else.
Yeah, so we have a lot of experience, certainly from an IBM standpoint, moving clients into our cloud and running Power and Power Virtual Server. And so it is a broad range of the clients, right? So any client can make this migration step. We've moved clients with, hundreds of terabytes of data that they have to back up into those environments, and they're full production and data center environments. And Service Express has broad experience as well across, different environments, both, Linux based as well as the AIX and IBM I environment. So I think, the experience of doing this is pretty broad from partners that our customers choose from. I think the really key piece, and Louise touched on it a little bit, is really sitting down and understanding the full set of objectives that the client is looking for, right? Because oftentimes they, engage with I have a cloud first strategy. I need to be in the cloud. And they start moving before truly understanding all the elements of the service levels they're looking for. What is their backup strategy? How is this going to integrate, as Luis just mentioned, with my other applications that may be running in, on Intel and VMware? And that may include, doing things across a multi-cloud kind of environment. So really, stepping back and understanding both the short-term wins that they can get in making that first steps of migration, but also the longer-term strategic direction that they're going to have. And what does that look like from a full cost basis, so that they don't have to end up in some of these situations that we're seeing a lot of, where they've started to step into, a hyperscale cloud, and they need to repatriate because it's just too expensive to try to run those applications that way versus leveraging a specialty cloud or a hybrid cloud type of approach.
Yeah, Steve, that must be a pretty terrible moment in any project, to find out that you got some way into the cloud. You have to come back again. The money you spent is effectively wasted. The progress you've made is wasted as well. You are delayed, you're behind schedule. Well, this would be something that the clients would do almost anything to avoid.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And in any IT project, that there's oftentimes that has occurred, in the past, right? And cloud is no different from that view, and it is waste of money. And that's one of the primary reasons, being able to modernize what you have today and bring that into a specialty cloud is so much more cost effective than starting a whole rewrite project and trying to do it in a cloud native way that may not be appropriate for your business structure and your business operations.
Yes,
and that service express, one of the things is that we specialize in, is we bring it in as it is, and then you can use Service Express to modernize it. So in other words, you might come in at a legacy version of whatever your application or operating system is that you're running, and then you use us as a center of expertise to help modernize it and bring it up to date. We have a lot of clients that step into our cloud at early versions, and then we then migrate them to the most recent versions of the operating system and the server systems themselves. So there's lots of reasons why you would come into the cloud.
Yes,
really
carry on, Steve. Yeah.
Just real quick, Tim. So, and that is that that movement even into these specialty clouds with your traditional mission critical workloads is a step that still needs to, ongoing modernization, right?
Yeah.
And that's key, to have a good service provider that's going to help you do that, as opposed to, I'm just moving what I have today and putting it, in a cloud and then leaving it as it is. So that whole modernization step is really important, and will be highlighted.
And also on top of, but on top of that, it isn't just about modernization for today. In our cloud, you're modernized. Once you're in our cloud, then the step to the future is really easy as well, because we're leveraging the IBM Power technology or VMware technology. So as the new technologies come out, we just bolt it on and then move you across to it. So it's not like quite often when you're actually in your own data centers, when you're upgrading to new technologies, especially new servers, it's quite an upheaval because you're actually migrating again. Once you're in our clouds, that migration step isn't necessary, because of once you're on our Power, especially our Power 10 estate, then the upgrade is just a move across, because everything's virtual and everything's mobile.
Tell me, is there a sustainability green IT angle to this, Luis?
Certainly, what we've done, we've just made the big investment with IBM and IBM Power 10, and we're currently upgrading our internal estate to Power 10. So there's a migration project going on. And we're going from 34 servers in our data center down to 6. So we have 2 data centers down to 6, of which we're only running 2 in each of our data centers. So we're really going down to 4. And we're having 1 as spare in case something happens. So literally, from our perspective, we're probably reducing, we're going from 100% down to 5% space. And those 4 are 100% bigger than we need. So it's not like we're squeezing it all in or anything like that. Those 4 give us space to grow. So they're 100% bigger once everything lands than what we actually need. So we've got 100% worth of growth, plus a spare server just in case in each data center. And because of when you actually land in our environment, and when these all move across, everything becomes mobile because they're not on static servers. In the old days, we used to have our specialty cloud is that we bring it in and we put it on dedicated servers for you, or shared servers that are quite static. Whereas in the new environment, what's happening is everything becomes virtualized and mobile. So if anything goes wrong, we can just move you onto the standby servers.
Guys, in the time that we've got left, I want you to give some advice to the people who are watching this and thinking, this might just get me out of the problem I never thought I'd get out of, is basically what they do next, what they do now, how they start off, how they get this moving, how they communicate it, how they show that it might be worthwhile for them. Steve, you go first.
Yeah, so my advice is you definitely need to get started, right? And that starts with having a discussion with the right partner to begin to understand your requirements and how you can make these steps into the cloud. You may want to just move your development environment there initially, right? Or your backup and DR environment as a starting point. But, beginning to understand the agility and capability of moving to a cloud is a huge advantage for clients, and why so many people are doing it, both in the new services world of hyperscalers, as well as now, more and more readily taking their mission critical applications forward. So understand that this is going to be a journey, right? That you're undertaking, but then get engaged with a, set of objectives that you want to accomplish, and begin to understand those business objectives with your partner and how you take those first steps from an implementation process standpoint.
So yeah, just like Steve said, so, I would advise you either reach out to ourselves or IBM to start off with. But quite often we see clients start off with just putting their DR or backup in the cloud, as Steve just said. And then by the time, they implemented that project, and then suddenly realize, well, hey, I might as well move everything into the cloud because that's working okay. If you see what I mean. So quite often, it's a tentative step to start off with, and then they move everything in whilst that project's going along. But certainly reach out. It doesn't, from our perspective, we've got a great relationship with IBM. Reaching out to us is great. Reaching out to IBM is great. And we'll start speaking to our salespeople. That's the way to start, having those conversations. And then that's where it all starts.
I see that you've got Service Express. We've got on our further reading quite a few links there that people can get into, read up about what's going on, read up about how other people have managed to do this. Because, this isn't really something where you want to be the first person who's ever done it.
No, we got, hundreds of clients. And we've been doing it for a long time. It's not like we're just new. We've just done this really wonderful partnership with IBM and what we're doing, but and we're building the future, and that's what this relationship with IBM is doing. But as Service Express has been doing this, as I said, since about, I think we started in 2007, when we started really putting what you could term a specialty cloud. That wasn't a word back then because of, we were just putting things, the applications that could make it to hyperscalers into a cloud environment, which is our own. But now we've actually, done this relationship with IBM on IBM Power, and we have the technology for the future, as and we're building that and working with IBM to keep that going. So it's not just about what we've got today. We're working with IBM to ensure that we'll always have the technology that you need for the future.
And Steve, to wrap up on this, and it sounds from everything that you've said here, it isn't the specialty cloud is sort of like this tactical dodge that you hop onto it, you hop off when you've got a bit of breathing room. It's a bigger idea, a bigger concept than that.
Yeah, I think as more clients are getting sophisticated around their multi-cloud strategy that they're driving, they're understanding these are, long-term solutions for them in their journey. And as Louise mentioned, we're going to continue to evolve and deliver, the next power technology, the next capabilities from, agility, flexibility, and reliability perspective into these same clouds, right? So the enhancements that can continue and the way clients can take advantage of those when they've made these steps into specialty clouds, become more readily available to them versus less readily available. So it's a long-term project and journey for us that we see for, forever from a foreseeable future.
Well, sorry, Louise, yes.
So I think it's also really critical to remember that the type of workloads that are coming into specialty clouds are the workloads that are stable. So in other words, a lot of the workloads, they're your mission critical applications that are running your company. So it's not like your agile workloads that you tend to have that are sitting on OpenShift and internet services. And I'm not decrying those or anything like that. But what I'm saying is that the workloads that come to a specialty clouds like ourselves are the stable back end. They're not changing too much. And that's what you want. You want some stability for those applications. And that's what a specialty cloud like ourselves can offer for you.
Well, good luck to everyone who's watching this. If you decide to kick this one off, let us know how you get on, and let us know if you want us to go into this a little bit further, any of the aspects of it you want to hear more about. You ask for it, we'll put it on. That's what we do at the Register. Our time for now, however, is used up. Louise, thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And Steve, thank you as well.
Thanks, Tim. I enjoyed it a lot.
And thanks to everyone behind the scenes at the Register who put this on. Thanks to all of you who watched this. We will be back soon. But for now, from me, Tim Phillips at the Register, goodbye. See you soon.